I am really, really proud of myself for what I stepped into this trip. And, we got to show up for ourselves, right? We got to show up, whether you do the meditation or you don't. When you show up for yourself, you're making progress. Mm-hmm. And during the walking meditations this week, I stood up. Literally, I got out of my chair. And I stood up 29 times over the course of 3 meditations. 9 times the first, 9 times the second, and 11 the third.
Welcome back to Salty 7, and man, am I excited to have Jim with us here. We're at the beautiful Gaylord in Nashville. We just finished up a retreat with Dr. Joe Dispenza, a 7-day, week-long retreat, and man, it was just amazing. So would you like to share with us what that was like for you?
Amazing is an understatement.
Right?
It just, every time, this is my 5th Dr. Joe event, and every time I learn something new, I pick up something new, and this time was no different. For me, I really surrendered and let go this time. Met so many people, had such amazing experiences with the coherence healings and the walking meditations, and the only thing I don't like about a Dr. Joe event is the last day.
I know.
Having to go home, I'm like, there's so many people that it's like you create a whole new family, and the going home is the hard part. But
so many people ask us, because this was our 6th retreat, your 5th, and people ask all the time, why do you keep going back? And my response now has been, where can you find such a tight-knit community filled with such authentic love? And so now, yes, it's a spiritual journey. Yes, we're working on ourselves, but what an awesome opportunity to be with people that are so loving and just genuinely open. And
absolutely. And I met somebody this week who I know is like a piece of my puzzle, and I know that we're going to have something to do in the future, and I'll come back every time for that, because there's always another piece of the puzzle to step into. There's always something else to step into, and I'm just really excited for what's going to happen next. I don't know what it's going to be, but I'm really excited for it.
Living in the unknown, right?
Right.
So I was thinking about that this morning, and a lot of people join groups and they attend functions for the networking aspect.
Yeah.
And there's a part of the Dispenza retreat where you could say that it's networking, but the big difference to me this morning was when you network at a Dispenza event, it's totally different than networking at any other kind of event, because most of those people at the other events are networking for personal benefit and gain.
Right.
But at a Dispenza event, and this is how I feel anyway, is we network because we want to give somehow, and we get by giving.
Yes. I kind of think of it as like networking with the heart.
Yeah.
You're sharing experience. You're sharing, and there was 2,300 people here, so this was the largest Dr. Joe.
Was that the number?
That's what I heard.
Wow. And it was the largest in the nation this year.
Yes, and everywhere you turn, you're going to find somebody that you have a conversation with immediately, and
it's weird how you kind of get steered almost like the universe is guiding us to meet up with people. Have you noticed when you go to, you've been to 5, have you noticed where you kind of keep meeting the same people?
Yep, absolutely.
They just keep happening to walk into your presence somehow, some way.
That person I told you about that is a piece of the puzzle, I had an assigned seat, and she was across the aisle from me every day.
Yeah. And
that's just, it was meant to be that way.
Yeah.
And you meet the people that you're supposed to meet. And it's interesting because we're color coordinated. We all have a color group, and there's like a whole other group of the event that you don't really see. Right. And there's 2,300 people, and I feel like I met a lot of people, and then I turn around, there's all these people I hadn't met yet. So that's why I keep coming back.
And more to come, right?
More to come, absolutely.
So in private, we were kind of chatting, and you mentioned a very big moment in your spiritual journey where you went to Cancun. Do you want to share that story?
Yeah. I went to Cancun in 2019. That was my first Dr. Joe event. Found Dr. Joe after going through. My body was diagnosed with MS back in 1998, and so I've tried all kinds of different modalities. And when, of course, as this audience will know, when you find Dr. Joe, you find the truth. And I finally found what I was really looking for. So I went to Cancun in 2019, and during one of the walking meditations, I was ready to walk, and it was that time to stand up and walk, and around my shoulder came a being and stood right in front of me, and I'm like, okay, I'm ready, let's go, I'm ready to walk, and the being said, it wasn't time, and I'm here when you're ready. And then during this event, that all kind of circled back, and I finally understood what that meant, because I'm thinking, I am ready. Let's go. I'm ready to stand up. I know now that if I would have stood up back then, I had so many other personal things going on with me, I would have ended up right back in the chair. Because I believe it's that stress and it's that environment that brings you to where you're at.
Yeah.
And so I have changed so much since 2019, emotionally, physically, spiritually. And yes, my body's a lot different. It's changed a lot, but I am ready for growth. And I just feel like in this event, I finally understood what was meant by saying, I'm here when you're ready. And I had beings with me in this event that were with me during the healings, right on my shoulders. I looked up and caught eyes, and then, my feet were shaken, and just amazing things that you can't make up, that I will never be the same. And what I got out of that was, it wasn't that I needed to get ready emotionally, but also my body needed to change a lot. And all that has happened over the course of 4 years, and in ways that I never could have imagined. It's the unknown, right? So it's just, I'm very, very grateful for where I am right now. And even though the path was hard, it's been so worth it. I don't look back and go, I don't want to take that pain away, because that got me to be right here, and I couldn't be any different. I can't be where I'm going to go next if I didn't go through what I went through.
What you just said is so unconventional in this day and age, where people are filled with gratitude because of a past that was hard.
Yeah.
Could be brutal emotionally, physiologically.
Yeah.
I put a video out the other day. My wife also had this realization a few months ago. It's transmuting our past into love and gratitude.
Yeah.
And really, I honestly feel in my heart at this moment in time that until we can truly find that place of gratitude for our past, and really have the attitude of I'm so grateful for it, and I really don't want to change any part of it, I don't think we can really have true healing until that happens.
I agree, and I think that, I know for me, I've been a victim in the past. Pointing my finger at disease, pointing my finger at other people, and I don't think victims heal. And so that has been a big part of me stepping into this, is truly taking responsibility for myself. And
but letting go also. Because
that's huge. Letting go and surrendering, and
you said
trusting.
In Cancun you were ready to go, right?
Right.
But then you said it's okay, and now 4 years later, you're at this point in your journey, and that's hard for me to do, because in our minds, in our 3D Newtonian minds, it's like, I want it, and I want it now.
Yeah.
And that surrendering, there's beauty in that.
There is, and what came to me is that I've done the hard work. Now it's time to work hard. And I want to work hard in a way to share. I want to share my journey. I want to share my experience. And I believe that I'm in this chair for a reason. I believe that I'm in this chair to help people know how to get out of a chair. And you can't teach how to get out of a chair unless you've been in a chair. And so I really believe that that's where I'm at. And the hard work has been hard. This work is not easy. But along the way, I've come to the realization recently. I was in Cancun again, and just 4 months ago, and I have changed so much since then that in between that time, I have told myself that I love my life now, and I haven't said that for a very long time. I also haven't said that I love myself, and self-love is so critical during this whole process. And it takes surrender for me. It takes surrender to get there. It takes acceptance and forgiveness, forgiving myself, loving all those pieces of me, and then stepping into an event like this. And my words for this week were trust and surrender. And then during the coherence healings, it was let the love in, which I didn't, I've had a shield around my heart for a very long time. And when you're in survival mode, you're control, and you're watching around every corner for the worries, and surrendering that is difficult, but I really feel like I did that for the first time this time.
That's awesome. Yeah, I was just sitting here thinking that every person has a spiritual journey, whether they know it or not.
Yeah.
I like using the term initiated, because that's really the way it works. Some event or set of events will initiate us into the spiritual journey, and sometimes it's a big event for people. And I was thinking that, and it appealed to me several days ago as well, that our spiritual journeys are hard for every person, and it's just relative to what they're going through. We saw some testimonials, and you yourself had some wonderful victories this retreat.
Yeah, yeah.
Where people have done the impossible with their health, and that's one aspect. And then you have a whole myriad of other people that on the outside appear perfectly healthy, but they are struggling, and I'm about to cry
Right.
because I myself have this problem where it's like we have some tremendous issues that are inside of us.
Absolutely.
And it's not apparent to the people looking on, because we really do put up a good shield and
Yeah.
and walk as if we're fine. And so I've been doing a lot of heavy lifting inside this retreat,
Yeah.
and you
Yeah.
mentioned about loving yourself and forgiving yourself, and that came to me this trip,
Absolutely. Yeah.
So let's move to your victory or set of victories, however
Yeah.
you'd like to look at it, because I was sitting in the audience and I saw you stand up,
Yeah.
and I want you to share that and maybe some other things that you found victorious.
I I am really, really proud of myself for what I stepped into this trip. And, we got to show up for ourselves, right? We got to show up. Whether you do the meditation or you don't. When you show up for yourself, you're making progress. And during the walking meditations this week, I stood up. Literally, I got out of my chair. And I stood up 29 times over the course of 3 meditations. 9 times the first, 9 times the second, and 11 the third. And I had, a volunteer here and my caregiver here, and I would count to 3, and I got up. And I was in Niagara Falls last fall, so about 7 months ago, and I couldn't stand up. I didn't stand up in Niagara. In Cancun, I stood up 18 times over 3 days. And this time I broke my record. That was a challenge for me. And what I realized during that is not only am I healing me, but I'm healing others as well. And I really saw myself as a healer this trip. I thought I had to be healed in order to be a healer. But it's the challenges that I'm going through that resonate with anybody else. And there's always somebody out there that understands what you're going through.
Yeah.
Those internal things that you're going through, there's always somebody else that understands that. And to me, it's that sharing, that vulnerability of sharing that helps that get out and helps somebody else. And I want to help people.
Yeah.
That's what I want. That's what I desire to do. That's what I see. I love this community. I just want to be a part of this community and help people and share.
Yeah.
And that was a huge accomplishment this week, is to
Awesome.
stand up out of my chair and also know, oh man, this was beautiful actually. During my first healing, I let go. And for the first time, I know that it's not about my healing. It's not about my body.
Yeah.
It's continue the journey, keep going.
Yep.
And I just honestly feel like it's just a matter of time now. I saw people heal, this trip. I've seen miracles this trip. And there's a twinge of jealousy, like, how come they got it? I didn't get mine. But it's happening. It's happening. And I know that my body, the 3D body, is just catching up to my mind. Because I'm on fire in my mind. I'm just all over the place and I'm loving it.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, you had a pretty awesome healing on Sunday. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
I had the first healing, I will never be the same.
Yeah.
And that's where I had a being, above my head. He put his arms on my shoulders, and I looked up and saw him in the eye. And as we know with these healings, I was making noises that I couldn't make. I can't make on purpose.
Well, let me interrupt real quick for
Yeah.
those that may not be familiar. So at a week-long retreat, Dr. Joe does these coherence healings, and essentially they're the last 3 days of the retreat. In this case, it was Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Yeah.
And it's in the afternoons, and he sets the Healy up in the middle of a group of 8 people, and everybody opens their hearts and just sets the intention. There's no crazy mojo stuff, right?
And no touching.
No touching.
Yeah.
Just hold your hands out and send love and healing energy. And so I just wanted to set the stage. So now you're
Yeah.
talking about the first one on Friday.
Yeah, and he does. Dr. Joe does an amazing job. I mean, 1,800 people or whoever it was walking in a room silently.
Yeah.
And in the first, I was so comfortable in my chair. I can be very uncomfortable. I was really comfortable, and my legs started twitching. And I'm like, oh no, what's going on? Well, it's because the energy was coming in the room, and there was like energy starting to move through me. And when I just felt so much love.
Yeah.
And that's what Dr. Joe always says is like, people don't talk about the healing, they talk about the love they feel.
I know.
And I felt that differently the first healing.
Really?
And
Awesome.
the second one, I kind of got in my way. It was weird. I don't know if you remember, but during that healing, the speakers went out. And I think there was so much energy in the room that we knocked the speakers out. And that felt
I wondered
weird.
that, yeah.
Yeah, because I really felt like you could hear the speakers outside, and I thought I was on a different planet.
Yeah.
I'm like, am I the only one that's not hearing the speakers, or is that everybody else doing that?
Yep, I noticed it, yeah.
Yeah. And so I kind of got my own way. But what I also find is that if I have a quote, bad meditation, I know that the next meditation is going to be really good.
Yeah.
Or the one after that is going to be really good. Because
And remember, there is no bad meditation.
there is no bad meditation, so that's why there's a quote around that.
Yeah.
But I know that the next one's going to be really good. And so after that, the second healing, I thought, all right, I'll just be set for the third one. And I did. And I let go. Didn't control it, didn't worry about it. And there's so much love in this room, in this community. And I had somebody say, I don't know if you healed me or I healed you, but we're healed. Yeah.
It's a circle of giving, right?
It is. Yeah, absolutely.
So did you have any mystical experiences on that last healing?
Boy, now I know that I did. I'm remembering.
I think you had mentioned something about light coming in and seeing light shoot out or something like that.
At one point I felt pressure in my throat chakra.
Yeah.
Or throat, my fifth energy center. And it wasn't a pain. What I came to is I felt like it was a light gift. Like light came in my throat chakra, and what I felt like is it's time to speak the truth.
Yeah.
And it's just time to open up and let go. And that was really cool. I love dancing at these events. Mm-hmm. And one of the last times I danced, I went up to the dance floor, and people are so nice and gracious. This wheelchair doesn't matter. I'm on the dance floor and I'm moving, and I just happened to be standing right in front of my team leader from 2019.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and then all the other people that I've met, and I was so filled with gratitude on the dance floor. And interestingly, right before that, I was talking to somebody, and we talked about the blue beings. And I think you guys have talked about this on your show before.
Yeah.
But the blue beings, I heard, like laughter. And when you're on the dance floor, there's a lot of laughter. So I know somebody during this event that had a miraculous healing on the dance floor.
Really?
And so, it's miraculous. And so the person I was talking to said, the blue beings like laughter. I said, well, let's go dance.
Yeah.
And so I went up and I was dancing, and I could not stop smiling. My heart was blown wide open, and I just couldn't stop smiling. And I invited the blue beings in for the next healing. I'm like, all right, I invite you in. I'm in my heart. And I just kept on looking up with this massive smile on my face. My cheeks were hurting, and the light on the ceiling turned blue. And I'm like, all right, there you are.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So, and we're not biased, but I started this channel to help guys, right?
Yeah.
Or
yeah.
this portion of our channel.
Yeah.
And so as a guy, you talked about your heart opening up.
Yeah.
That is something that a lot of guys find difficult to do.
Absolutely.
And are probably scared. They may not admit it.
Yeah.
But they're probably scared to do that. It's a feeling that's unusual to them.
Yeah.
So would you like to share how that was for you?
It's taken a while.
Yeah.
We just, as guys, it's harder to be vulnerable. I think I've been vulnerable for a long time. It's kind of natural. But it was trusting and allowing that love in. And there's just been, the past is what it is. There's been trauma, there's been all these different things, and there's just been a shield around my heart. And what's beautiful about this community is that when you open up here, the person you're talking to understands. And it's not like opening up anyplace else that I've found.
Yeah.
You're opening up and you're talking to somebody who understands, which makes it so much easier to do. And there's been so many people, so many men that, Dr. Joe talks about all the time. He's like, I was standing in front of men crying. And every time that happens, it's not easy to do, but boy, is it worth it. I mean, it is really worth what it takes to get there.
So I have not yet had that heart orgasm like he talks about.
Yeah.
Where you just feel your heart basically exploding. And I used to get really frustrated because, like, why is it not happening to me?
Yeah.
I've calmed down on that, I'm not having that expectation. I know at this particular event, I started to feel almost like a in my chest.
Yeah,
And I was
yeah.
like, whoa, that's kind of cool. And I just relaxed into it, and I also have noticed just over the last 9-10 months as I've been on this spiritual journey, my heart will at times start to open, and then I feel myself like, no, I can't cry, or I feel like tears of joy coming up. Like even right now, talking to you, I'm like, oh, I don't want to bust that one ball. So I intentionally close it back up, and so I wanted to see if you could enlighten our audience on, and me too, on that process for you.
Yeah. In the first healing, that heart orgasm that you talk about, I've had some really big energetic pops, or really amazing feelings throughout. I've been doing this work for 4 years, and in that 4 years, I have changed so much emotionally that I really had to excavate in order to get there, and that was not easy. I've done some of the hardest things that I've ever done in my life, and been in that dark night of the soul, wondering what's going on. When I started my spiritual journey, I would say that I have a black hole in my heart, and I don't know how to fill it. And now at this retreat, I don't feel that. I don't feel that there's a hole in my heart. And during that first healing, as Dr. Joe talks about, I didn't want it to end. It was magical, and I was in that blissful place, and my heart was as big as the room. Wow. And going into it, I had to tell myself repeatedly, let love in, just receive. And I have a hard time receiving. Somebody bought me some water when we first got here, and she said, I said, well, I want to pay you for that. And she goes, no, I'm buying that for you. And she said, I jumped back. Yeah. And she goes, Jim, you just got to receive, man. It's not that big a deal. Yeah. And I said, okay, when I go into this healing, my only job is to receive, because everybody in that room is pouring love. Their palms were coming at me, and I just knew that there's so much love there. Why don't I let it in? Because what has happened is not presently happening. What has been in the past is over, and the past is done. Yeah. And I finally feel that now, and I'm finally able to say it doesn't matter. And that took me a really long time to be able to say the past doesn't matter. I don't blame them anymore. It's not their fault, and they were doing the best they could. So in order for me to move forward, in order for me to step forward, in order for me to heal, I need to accept that. And I think love is the answer to everything.
It really
is.
And
in order to get there, I've got to be courageous enough to open up.
Well, that was excellent, and we have just a few more minutes before we'll have to end our interview, but I wanted to ask you about your podcast. You're doing a podcast.
Yeah.
How is that going? Tell the audience what it is so they can tune in if they'd like to.
Yeah. My podcast is called How You Really Doing.
Okay.
And I've been doing it since 2014.
Yeah.
And it started with, I was diagnosed with MS back in 1998. And it just started as a way for me to share. And the first 20 episodes were about MS and about all that side of things. Mm-hmm. And since then, I've been talking about Dr. Joe. And that's talking about opening my heart. That's been hard, because being honest and truthful about this work when that's not where I came from has been like, this is what I want to do. It's continually stepping into the courage to talk the truth. Yeah. And so I've been talking with friends that are doing the Dr. Joe work. I've talked to a gal that does frequency specific microcurrent, which is a really cool modality that I've been doing. Been talking to people doing emotional and body code work, which again has really opened me up. I think it's really opened up my body. Yep. At a cellular level to accept the energy coming in. And I'm just having, I did a really big excavation emotionally with this guy. It's called the Freedom Activation, mm-hmm. and it was very intense. And so I've done a podcast with him about opening up. And so it's been, I'm really enjoying this next level that I'm going to. And that's where the vulnerability comes in, to be able to share in an authentic, truthful way like that.
Can I give you a hug, brother?
Absolutely. I never turn that down, ever. Love you, man.
Love you too. And this is
Yeah.
something that I've found so interesting about this work is just the willingness to do that. And
Yeah.
it has
Yeah.
felt just awesome. I've given more hugs to guys this trip,
Oh.
and it's just genuine love. So I just want to say thank you for coming on and sharing
thank
a little
you.
bit
Thank
about your
you.
journey. I
Yeah.
know it's not the whole picture, but we're going to do this again. And I've been looking forward to this for over a month now when I heard about your story. And it's just so cool how everything has come together, the universe. So love you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. And as always, if you wish to reach out to us, you can utilize our email, which is dispenzachats@gmail.com. And we have the gofundme.com/salty7. And Jim, love you, brother.
Love you, man. Thank you so much, Kyle. Appreciate it.